Brad Singleton, first of all, Brad, obviously we know he's got a broken bone in his hand. What's the sort of prognosis in terms of length?
He's having an op tomorrow on that. He's going to put a plate on his thumb. So he'll be, I think he's going to be about anywhere between 6 and 8 weeks.
And the thumb as well, I imagine that it's a fairly important digit, isn't it?
Yeah, of all the bones in your hand, you know, there's a few versions of breaking your hand that you don't want. You know, you can actually break, you know, top of your hand, and some of those little skinny bones that lead into your knuckle, and you can break your knuckle. You sometimes break your finger and strap it up and carry on with enough painkillers. But you know, with a thumb, you need that, don't you? You know, you can't. So you know, they're painful as well. So it's just one of those. If he could carry on and could strap it up and crack on, he'd do that. But
as with most players, in fact. I mean,
well, you know, Adam Cuthbertson, you know, had a similar injury just recently, and he's still not recovered from that. He's probably come back way early, you know, weeks and weeks earlier than what your random would. So you know, they go through a bit, the players. It's a blow for Brad. He's been a very solid player for us so far this year. Not quite hit his straps yet, as we haven't, but some of what he gives us off the field, and you know, some of that leadership he's been great. While the majority of the pack, the forwards have been injured, the props. You know, we'll miss him.
You said about Brad not hitting the straps and the team not hitting the straps. Can you put your finger on why that is? Because you've been so close in all the recent matches.
Well, I don't think I need to. I don't think there's a yeah, we hadn't hit our straps, but you know, for a couple of games I thought we were extremely good, and for patches in games we've been great. You don't sometimes. You just don't. You go some weeks where you only just winning, or maybe only just losing, and I don't think we've been awful. And just sometimes that's how it is. You know, if you go around the league, and you know, most seasons you get one or two teams that are standout. With Saints are having a good run at the moment. But and you know, Warrington have picked up and got some momentum together, and long season. It's a long season, so you know, while we do endeavour each week to be as good as we can be, and each week, as long as we can see things progressing, improving, getting better, you know, that's the challenge each week.
It'd be almost impossible, I imagine, to be at top form from day one to the very end of the season, anyway, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the answer is yes. You know, I think your approach to the games and your approach to losses and poor performances is as equally, probably more important than when you win. Because if you're actually quite good and you've only just lost, yet your assessment of it is that, you know, we're way off, you're pretty much dismissing all the good things that you've done in the game. You know, and whether the players consciously or subconsciously just dismiss some of the really good things because they're heading off the assessment of, you know, one of our recent performances. If I was to say that was really, really poor, you need to pull your socks up and, you know, take a good look at yourself in the mirror and all those usual kind of things. Well, that would be wrong, that, because there's some really good stuff happening in games. You know, even at the Warrington loss, which was disappointing, achingly disappointing that we lost that game after getting back into it. The period of getting back into it, I thought, was extremely good. Really good in attack, you know, ferocious in defence. And that's where you've got to say to the players, look, have a look at this. This is a really good patch. This is some of the things that we've been working on, some of the things that we want to keep for next week. So it's not quite as easy as just saying, well, we're losing games, so we're not good. And by that token, you know, you just can't do it for 30 weekends. Plus playoffs, plus Challenge Cup, it's impossible.
But is that one of the hardest things that you have to do then as a coach, then to sort of tell the players, not point them in the direction of the good bits, because they'll know where the good bits are, but try and get them to concentrate more on the good bits than the bad bits, because everybody looks at the results, don't they? You know what it's like in all sports.
For sure, that's my job. Any person who's involved in any industry that's public, you know, you get the public eye on you, and it does alter your way of thinking. You're a liar if you say it doesn't. And you know, my job as head coach is to be aware of what's out there, what people are thinking, what the fans think, what the club thinks, what the owners think. That's part of the job. you've got to take into account what everybody thinks, because we are an entertainment industry. I'm just not coaching them for my benefit. I'm coaching them for everybody else to view. So therefore, it's important what other people think. But don't let that distort your opinion of what you think we should do next week. And that's the challenge, especially at Leeds. That we get more media attention than most other clubs, if not every club. So, and I think collectively, as a group, coaches, administration staff, chief executive, everybody, I think we do a good job of that, of being aware of what's out there, and not in a patronising way. We are aware of what people think. We are aware of whether people are happy or unhappy with us. But at the same time, having the clarity just to be able to make a decision for what's best for the team, to be able to win at the weekend. And not everybody agrees. Not everybody would see it from ours or my point of view. I get that. But I won't change my opinion if I believe what I'm doing is right.
Widnes.
Sounds a bit deep, that, doesn't it?
No, it's very good. Very good. Widnes away. It brings its own interesting dynamic with the pitch, and I know lots of teams have played there lots of times, away teams, but it still must be something to prepare for.
It's a factor for sure. It's absolutely a factor. I don't particularly like the field.
Yeah.
We trained on a 3G field at Kirkstall. I said this, I think, in the last 2 times we've played there. Our 3G field that we train on is better than their playing surface. I don't think their playing surface is personally, I don't think it's good enough. I don't think it's up to the right specification. I don't know what that means really, but you know, these things have a specification in terms of give, in terms of the turf that's on there, in terms of the rubber crumb that's used, and I don't like it. I can say that, and at the same time prepare my team to get ready to win on there. You know, I'm not saying so therefore we're going to struggle. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're asking me if we was to draw an amateur team away in the Challenge Cup and we had to go play in a field that had very little grass on it and that had very little attention to it, would that be a factor? I'd say yeah, it's a factor, but we're still going to go on there and do a good job. I'm saying about Widnes' ground, I don't like it. I wouldn't want my team to play on that every single week. But you know, we've had 4 losses there since 2015. 2015, 16, 17 and 18 now. We've lost on each occasion. And we need to be better at that.
Will that play on the players' minds, do you think, the ones who've been there? Because I mean, there hasn't been a huge turnover in the squad over the course of that time either.
What, that we've lost there 4 times? Oh, for sure.
You arrive on the bus in the car park.
It's part of the prep.
It's in the players.
Well, it's part of the prep. Yeah. I don't think it psychologically damages them. I don't think seeing Widnes is going to, oh no, we're here again. You know, I know he's going to, but it's part of the prep for sure. You've lost 4 times though.
Last time there was perhaps mitigating circumstances because you've been halfway around the world, but you've been totally around the world in actual fact. That must have had some factor. Was it 9 days in between?
And the one in 2016 as well. We played Widnes before the World Club Challenge.
Which must have some kind of.
Of course it does. Of course it does. You know, we took a group of blokes over there to Widnes after travelling 24,000 miles in 7 days. Of course it did.
Not been quite as far this time. So you'd be confident. I mean, what does the Challenge Cup and what would a good cup run mean to you and to the team?
The same as it does every week, every year. Sorry, it's a big thing. It's a big deal, and it's one of the attractions of our sport, our competition. So you know, the conclusion of a good run in the cup means you get to play at Wembley in front of thousands of people. It's brilliant. It's a great experience. We'd love to progress.
Do they feel different cup ties because the consequence is that if you don't win this one, there isn't another one?
They do.
In the league,
they do, and because it's knockout, yeah, it has that playoff feel about it when you get to playoffs. But the cup ties are always different anyway. Don't ask me why. I think, you know, some of the teams that would be perceived as being underdogs for just one game. Anybody can get up for one game. Anybody can just rise to the occasion for one game, and I think maybe that's why, you know, for knockout competitions, especially the Challenge Cup, you always get that intense games where nobody actually quite gets a grip of a game in Challenge Cups. You know, you do get some pushovers, but quite often, you know, a team who's perceived to be better than the other team just struggle and suffer, and it becomes one of those dramatic games that nobody's quite got in charge of it. And that's the same every time a Super League team plays a Championship team. Rarely do they wipe the floor with them. They're always intense games.
Given what you said about the Rhinos' record at Widnes, I'm not sure who the underdogs and who are the favourites.
I know, that's it, yeah.
What do you make of Widnes this year? Have they changed anything dramatically?
I think what Dennis Betts, I think he's consolidated or stabilised the group after losing Kevin Brown. I don't think it's an easy task he's got, Dennis Betts, over there. I think he has some certain challenges, and with a lack of resource and you know, player retention, player recruitment. I think he does a great job. You know, and I'm speaking with my London Broncos hat on when I was down coaching the team down there. That it's hard. They're hard yards that to put a group of men out on the field who believe they can win each week. And you look at what he's been through the last 2-3 seasons with the team. I think he's doing a great job with them, and it could look so much worse at Widnes. Again, I've been there, I've seen it, I've experienced it. That just to get 13 men on the field, believing they can win, and every now and again playing really well and beating teams, it's a feat in itself.
Ryan, I know you spoke previously about recent form. I'm not going to perhaps suggest that this is a welcome break, but is it nice to turn your attention and focus to a different competition?
That's just saying the same as saying a welcome break, isn't it?
I don't want to.
That's just the exact same. No, none of that. No, I don't. No, I'm not thinking, wow, let's get away from Super League. I'm not. None of that. It's a different comp, and we know it's going to be a tough fixture over there, and we know that if we lose, that's that particular competition for us done for the year. So, you know, there's a bit of pressure on us to nail the job over there.
In terms of the semi-final defeat last year, is that a factor in motivating your players?
No, it's not. It's not. And I think the only reason a Challenge Cup memory would carry over from the previous year is if you got to the final and lost, or got to the final and won. So you go into next year's competition as the current holders, and people call you the current holders, or you go into next year's competition with a group of players who lose at the final hurdle and probably got a bit of fire in the belly to carry on and progress on. You know, whether we lose in the semi or the quarters or the first round, you know, we don't talk about that. It's a new comp for us. You know, we get another crack at it, and pretty excited about that.
In terms of the actual final itself, I think it was last week or perhaps the week before, you said because of where it is in the calendar year, it makes things difficult. Do you think that it is beneficial to a top 4 side to make the final in that respect now? In
what respect? Say that again.
Because of perhaps playoffs, perhaps of where the final is now in the calendar.
I don't know. I wouldn't say it's detrimental, or well, I am saying that, aren't I? But our attitude towards it doesn't change. I don't think we look at this and say, well, do you know what? Let's have a real good go at this. But if we don't win, it doesn't matter because we've got the grand final coming up soon. No chance. You know, we did it in 2015 and dragged ourselves through and got to both finals and won both finals. It can be done. What I'm saying is it's extremely unlikely, because of where the Challenge Cup is in the calendar year, that any team will get to both finals and win both finals. It's just such an emotional drain out of you. The physical part of playing in a final and playing at that stage, on that stage is in itself a big thing, but the emotional part of it is pretty big. Interestingly, when we've got there at 11 and 12 and lost both finals and didn't have a problem with form afterwards. So physically, I knew we were tired as well, by the way, but went on and won a few games straight after. And then in 14 and 15 we got there and won both finals, and were horrendous afterwards. Just looked like a group of vacant men. So I think the emotional part of it and some of that satisfaction or some of that subconscious achievement, self-achievement that you've got, it's just hard then to just carry on and get back up for a group of men who are going to beat you up on the following weekend.
In terms of Super League and how it is and relegation, does it change, do you think, the complex and the argument, I guess, for fielding a stronger side in the Challenge Cup as the rounds do progress for some of the teams in the league, do you think? And perhaps priorities change a little bit?
Well, you've got a few things going on. We've got the few factors going on. You know, we want to get through to the Challenge Cup. We want to win games so we end up in the top 4 in Super 8s. And for other teams, I think a decision's got to be made about, do you field a strong team for the Challenge Cup, or do you then go into survival mode and try and get in the top 8 and not in the middle 8s? Yeah, I think that has a bearing. I think that has a bearing whether the Challenge Cup's in spring or it's the back end. But certainly, if you get to the latter rounds of the Challenge Cup at the back end and you're fighting to get out in the middle 8s, that's a real question that I don't think many coaches would want to be posed with.
Speaking to Jamie Jones, he was saying just how special the Challenge Cup is for him, and I know you've spoken about the emotion and what it means perhaps to make it to Wembley. Is the occasion and the feeling of the Challenge Cup an impression that you get from the younger players as well as the veterans on the side, and for yourself, what does it mean? I think
the young players would feed off the senior blokes, and you know, our young fellas, I don't need to say to our young fellas, I'll give them a brief history of the Challenge Cup and its inception and all that to make it special. They get that from a Jamie Jones who at 43 or however old he is, he's still as excited now about playing the game, never mind the Challenge Cup, but playing rugby league. But certainly when they start talking about the Challenge Cup and how keen we all are to get there, you know, the young fellas pick up on that instantly. And it does, you know, the way that you treat a Challenge Cup and the importance of it gives it credence without actually saying anything.
And finally, what does it mean for you specifically, the Challenge Cup and prospect of being at Wembley and winning it?
I think if you're a chef or a computer analyst or a banker or a bricklayer, there's peaks of those jobs, you know, and whatever industry you're in, there's a version of doing that job that everybody wants to do. There might be a job out in another part of the world where a bricklayer, all the bricklayers are thinking, you know, if we could get that job, that'd be brilliant. I'd love to do that job, but unfortunately I'm laying bricks in East Leeds. Well, the Challenge Cup's like a version of our industry that everybody wants to do. That everybody thinks, God, I wish I could do that. I wish I would have a go at that. But you know, I'm not playing in that competition, or I'm playing in a lower league. And I do know that when you get through to the final, that there's a feeling that there's only 2 teams done that. There's only going to be 26 players who are going to be playing on that, starting the game in London on that Saturday afternoon. And you do know you're the pinnacle and the peak of your industry for that brief moment in time. Very elitist feeling, but a good feeling.
Thank you, good luck.
Cheers, thanks.
Jack Walker made his comeback in the under-19s last week. Will he be in contention on Friday?
Yeah, he's in the 19. The likelihood is he'll play. But just whether bring him off the bench or not, we yet to make that decision.
Ashton Golden, obviously contender for that fullback spot. He had a mixed night last week against Warrington. How have you dealt with him this week?
He did have a mixed night. I don't mind saying that it was costly for us, and certainly it put a bit of anxiety in people. But I thought his reaction was brilliant. I thought his attitude towards it and the way he dealt with that on the field, you could see he maintained his confidence, maintained his attitude of he's got a job to do, and was good afterwards. In terms of dealing with him, we had a chat. He wanted to chat to me. I didn't have to pull him. He came and talked to me and just pretty much said that he wants me to know that what he did wasn't good enough, and he understands it hurt the team for the period that he dropped those couple of balls there. And you know, the players then go forward and make some assurances that they're going to work the rocks off to make sure that doesn't ever happen again. And that's what you need as a coach. You don't want a bloke apologising or trying to give you weak reasons or try and justify what happened. He just wanted to impress upon me and said, look coach, just so you know, I don't think what I did was great. I understand how it affected the team, but I also want you to know that I'm on it. I'm going to get this right, I'm going to fix it up. Which is a great reaction from him. Very mature man, Ashton, very honest man as well. And when he left the office, you know, you just nod and go, he's got that covered. You know, I know he's going to go out there and do whatever it takes to make himself a better player, which is a great feeling to have as a coach. But you know, from his point of view, it's something to be respected that and admired, regardless of what the team looks like this week or going forward. And he said that as well. It wasn't a version of saying, so please pick me. And he made that clear as well. He just wanted to impress them on me that he appreciates the gravity of the situation that happened on Friday night, which I wish all players were like that. Another
young player have to step up to the mark this week. Presumably he's Rhinos Ladbrokes with Brad Singleton being out. So you're confident he can do a job for you?
He's been good, Mick. In recent weeks when he's played with us, he's done a great job, and you know, he's got some physical attributes. He's a big man, he's got leg speed. Whether a big man can understand the ruck, both offence and defence, is a big thing for young fellas, especially defensively. And you know, so how you get back on side and where you get back on side to is one thing. And sometimes you try and impress upon a big man that you've got to get on side a little bit quicker than a slow jog. And they all get it, but some of them can't do it. Where Mick's got some real good leg speed. But surprisingly, although he's a late addition to the game, hasn't been playing that long, he's a good reader of it as well. He's not perfect, and he's got some nuts and bolts in his game that give him another 100 games, he'll have less of those nuts and bolts on him. But yeah, I'm confident he'll do a great job for the team.
In terms of your injured players, how close are you to having some people back, people like Liam Sutcliffe and Mitch Garbutt? Is he any closer?
No, they're not. Brett Delaney, maybe next week. Rhino jangled his shoulder up. That's a medical term that I've invented, jangled. So he's going to miss this week. Might be back next week, Rhino. It's just a bit of a bruising. Brett Delaney next week. Mitch Garbutt be another month, maybe 6 weeks, possibly. Sutty could be another month. So they're tough, you know, especially Garbs. We miss Garbs. Garbs has got some physical presence on the field, and we've certainly missed that while he's been out.
Just away from the Rhinos, a former Rhinos player, Luke Briscoe, could equal a record that goes back to the 1930s, looking to score in 17 consecutive games when Featherstone play Hull tonight. He was a young man you worked with here. Great to see him now in a bit of run without injuries and showing what he can do. I
think that was the factor with him about his injuries. He just kept coming up with these incredibly unlucky injuries, and not slight ones either. It was either a complete snap leg or a complete snap shoulder, and you know, you question what he was made of. But his quality as a player was never in question. Everybody always assumed if he could knock together 20, maybe 30 games and get over some of those initial errors in his game, we knew confident he'd be a good player. That'd be a challenge against Hull tonight for Featherstone, but not undoable either, as we were mentioning earlier on. Not undoable, and if they can just manage the early stages of the game, manage Hull's size, there's a chance. There is a scenario where Featherstone really do trouble Hull, but their strike players will have to come up with something, and Briscoe being one of them. It'd be good if he could score a try for sure.